It takes time for it to warm up.
Yeah, we need to dim the light though, too.
No, I did not realize that.
Will the special meeting of Wadsworth City Council for Wednesday, November 5th, 2025 at 4:30 p.m. please come to order? Will you please rise and pledge allegiance to the flag?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Will the clerk please call the roll?
Copley?
Here.
Hines? Parrish?
Here.
Renacci?
Here.
Rosbert?
Here.
Stugmeyer?
Here.
Yurcheck?
Here.
Williams?
Here. Will the clerk please read the legislation?
A resolution, I'm sorry. Which ordinance is this?
That's good.
Ordinance number, or Resolution 25-11. A resolution requesting that the city administration begin the process of rolling back the city's provisions of cable, internet, and fiber services, and to cease further expansion of such services and declaring an emergency.
Mr. President, I have a little bit of a point of order. Since that resolution was dropped, I've had people call me thinking that we're getting rid of the telecom, and I want to make sure that everybody understands that resolution was dropped because me for certain, and many other members of City Council have been asking questions about telecom and spending and costs for at least 2 months. And when we finally dropped that resolution, for those that are wondering, we finally started to get some answers. But I must admit, even as of 2:30 today, I got additional answers, which is going to lead to some more questions tonight. So as members of City Council, I hope we all realize that even though we have 6,000 subscribers, there are 11,000 households, which means that, yes, there is a large number that use telecom services, but there's also a good number that don't. And whatever commitment we make for the city, when I say don't use telecom, they don't use our telecom, they might be using somebody else's. But whatever decision we make should always be in the best interest of the total community, which is why we have to get the answers to our questions and make good, solid decisions going forward. And that's why that resolution was dropped. I'm not sure if I have the total losses in the cable system. We'll talk about that today, but I think today's working session is a good session to move forward.
Okay. Mr. Testa, you've been given a lot of questions from council. Would you like to have the floor at this time to answer them?
Sure. Yes. I think, let me pull up my screen and share it so everyone can look at it, so we're all looking at the same page.
Mr. Test, I'm having trouble hearing you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
That's better. Yeah.
Let me pull up my computer on the screen so we're all looking at the same documents together. And I think that'll make it a little bit easier.
You need help?
No. Just taking a minute to get connected.
In the meantime, can everybody hear in the back? Can't hear? Want to see if they can turn it up a little bit.
Okay, you turned it up.
Okay,
Thank you.
they've increased the volume probably as high as they can.
Get a feedback.
Do
Do you need that? I mean, you want to go ahead and start?
I can start. For some reason, I'm not able to connect to that. But so we originally started talking about this probably a month and a half ago, and the question was raised to prepare some analyses of, what it would look like if we sold the cable system, if we continued to operate it based on the project expenses in our current operations, and what it would look like if we were to sell the cable system. So I put together some different analyses, and I know I got more questions from council members, and tried to provide documentation that was requested to answer those questions. And I think maybe the easiest place to start is by looking at the history, the profit and loss history, or the surplus and deficit history of CityLink. My records that I can access only went back to 2014. But the important point I want to make about that is that in every year we had an operating surplus. There were 2 years that show a deficit, and my explanation to council was it's a deficit because basically we're drawing down our cash account, so to speak, our bank account, while we pay for project expenditures. Jim, you raised an issue about, but it looks like in a couple of years we had losses in there. And, I would say that's not correct. The couple of years that you're looking at specifically, in those numbers were a pretty significant amount of project expenses. So pulling those one-time project expenses out, we would have had surpluses in there. So those expenses are part of the roughly $10 million project to upgrade our coax or cable network to an all-fiber network. As part of that, and part of the way that it would be paid for, is we would be switching our television product from a cable TV service to a streaming TV service. The reason for the change is because over the years, the cost of programming and content has increased considerably. So much so that we were losing a pretty good chunk of money on every subscriber in every plan that we had of the different tiers. One of the things that we did about a month and a half ago, and the revenues will be starting to come in when we get the receipts for the October billing, but we raised cable rates. Part of the reason for the increase was to reduce the amount of losses we were experiencing on a subscriber basis, and part of it was to give folks an incentive to move to one of the streaming TV packages. They can get equivalent or even a little bit more for the same amount or less money than they're paying now, but the benefit to us as a city is that we save about $30 on average in programming costs for each subscriber. And in fact, the reduction of those content costs from roughly about $2.8 million down to about $1.8 million over a span of about 5 or 6 years, depending on how quick we get people installed and converted over, basically becomes a permanent reduction in our operating costs. So we've lowered those content costs, not only for the folks that are subscribers now, but also for anybody that becomes a subscriber and gets added on. Within all of this, there's a couple things that I think there's been some miscommunication or some confusion about. The first piece is that CityLink does not operate on any tax dollars. It doesn't receive tax dollars. It never has. In my understanding that, Mr. Ralph, you had asked basically about the startup costs. I couldn't track down that number. I spoke to Leanne, and she said, boy, we'd really have to do some thinking to pull all of that together because it occurred over time. But she said, hey, but there was no tax dollars that were involved in the startup as well. So the first thing I just want to make sure is that we're all clear that income tax dollars, property tax dollars, no tax dollars are used to support CityLink. They operate just like a private provider would, in that they basically live on the revenues they generate, they cover their expenses. With that, again, I want to go back to the point that they have a surplus, which is basically government speak for a profit, meaning the revenues they charge overall exceed the costs to operate the department or the business. Within the business, you have a few different service lines. You have internet service, you have cable television service, we've now got streaming television service, and you've got a voice over internet protocol phone service. Only one aspect of CityLink's operations is losing money, and it's basically the cable television service, and it's specifically because content costs have increased so much relative to our prices. Now, you may be asking, well, why didn't we increase prices sooner? Well, there's a couple of reasons. Number one, it's basically our citizens, our residents that are paying those fees. So, our goal is to keep the prices as reasonable as possible. And remember, as a department or as an entity, we're making money overall. So anything that was happening specific to the cable TV program losses are more than covered by the revenues generated from other operating lines, or in other words, the cable, the phone service, and the streaming television. A second point that I think is worth mentioning is that over time, we've seen a steady increase in the number of customers, meaning I think we're now up to maybe 6,300, 6,400 total internet subscribers, and that includes some nonprofits, business. The majority of them are residential customers. But, our goal was to raise prices in some packages to help reduce the cost, reduce the loss on those subscribers. But we knew that we weren't raising prices sufficiently on all packages because we didn't want to take the chance of driving away current customers that could switch over, or when we get to that section of town, if necessary, would switch over to a streaming service. So we made the decision that we'd rather lose a little bit on a per subscriber basis for however many months it would take, in whether that's 3 months, 6 months, whatever, because we would have those folks as a profitable customer once they were switched over to streaming service. It's also worth noting that you do not have to have fiber internet service in your area to be switched over to streaming TV. So that could be done now. So if somebody on a cable plan could call and schedule, and we would install them to a streaming TV service, which on that customer right there, then they've gone from providing a loss to us on a subscriber basis to providing a profit on a subscriber basis. So again, this wasn't random, the timing or the increase. We made a deliberate decision to try to keep rates low. And again, as an entity, we're not losing money, so we could afford to do that. We're not a for-profit making entity in a sense that we've got shareholders or business owners. So the folks that we serve really are our customers, our neighbors, our friends. So we want to provide good service and make enough of a return that we can continue to maintain a great service level, but to invest in the system. And in fact, what we've seen with this fiber to the home project is that the surpluses that have been generated in the past had been set aside basically in a savings account, specifically with the intent to use that money to upgrade from a coax-based cable network to a fiber network. So everything that's been happening over the last few years is part of a plan, and it really is progressing according to the plan. So I think those are probably the main facets. I do want to mention, though, in terms of our customer counts, if you take about 6,000 households, and this is very generic calculations, but figure that an average household has maybe 2.5 people. That's about 15,000 people. So that's a lot of folks that, if a service were to go away, would have a need to find another provider. In all likelihood, that provider would charge more, or if they offered a lower rate to start, typically those are what they call teaser rates, and they increase after a few months or a year. So it's like anything else, when you have competition from another provider, that tends to keep all of the prices low, and that includes the competitors that do business here. I would also say that based on the rate survey analysis that we had done, of which some of those stats were presented in the business plan that you were provided, would seem to bear that out. It's also worth noting that, particular to the cable line, that we don't have, some employees that just work in cable television, some that just do internet. For example, we have 4 technicians that handle the installations, and these are the same technicians that would, in the past, install cable service. They're the same ones now that install fiber or streaming TV service, and the same ones that are installing internet. So getting rid of, for example, just the cable service line does not reduce much in the way of costs. It reduces just the variable costs, the 2 biggest of which are what we pay for content, and the transition to streaming is solving that problem. And then the second largest piece is a portion of cable revenues that are used to fund WCTV operations. If, for example, the decision was made that, at the end of 2025, we're getting rid of the cable or we're shutting it down, that would eliminate the single biggest piece of revenue that's slated to fund WCTV next year. So their revenues in total operations are somewhere in the neighborhood of about $375,000, and approximately in the neighborhood of about 220 of that comes from our operations. You might ask, well, but isn't cable going away? And I would say that yes, it absolutely is, not just for us, but for other providers, because they're in the same situation that, they're experiencing increases in content costs and are moving to a streaming model. But that gives us some time to plan and reposition what WCTV is going to look like. We anticipate continuing to provide the same services there, but it also gives us time to maybe transition a little bit to do more marketing and maybe more learning opportunities, learning videos, stuff like that on behalf of the city as a whole. So although, technically, if we sold the cable system to somebody else that was going to run it as a cable system, they should have to pay the same, those same royalties toward WCTV's operations, but they don't have to if they just say, instead of paying, our $100,000 here, we're just going to invest it in upgrading our network on our side. That counts. That means they can use the money for that, and it does not go to WCTV. So maintaining all of the services, but in particular the cable services, is instrumental in continuing to fund WCTV's operations as we transition to a more sustainable model.
And I had a couple of questions too asked me, just so everybody knows. The cable is old technology, or the coax is old technology. You can't buy a car with a cassette player in it anymore, and so it will be gone. In other words, people will not have a choice. Oh, I want to stay with the coax. It will be gone. It will be removed, and streaming will be the only service that will be provided. There's not going to be a choice once the entire city is installed with fiber, correct?
Yeah, that's correct, Tom. And I think one of the issues that sometimes gets lost in the discussion is that let's say that we sell the cable system and somebody else comes in to operate it. The other providers, again, they're in the same boat with rising content costs, and their marketing efforts are geared towards switching people over to streaming products as well. In many areas, for example, Spectrum doesn't allow new customers to sign up for cable. They can only choose basically streaming TV. But there's also another inherent risk in getting rid of the cable stuff, is that our infrastructure, our fiber lines, our cable lines now, are also on the same.
I appreciate the promotion and everything, Mr. Stugmeyer. This really is about the nuts and bolts, the dollars and cents, and there's questions that our committee has that they'd like answered, and Anybody from council wants to talk about numbers, now's the time.
I like to talk about that.
Yes.
Yeah. So I want to go back, and that's what I said. I want to get back to just numbers. I did ask the question almost 2 months ago about the losses in the cable system, and I'm finally starting to get some of those answers. But you've said a couple things just in your opening remarks that, and you said this, I mean, I got emails that show that we have never lost money in the CityLink in totality. But I think today you're admitting that in 2024, we have lost money in the total CityLink, and that's what's presented in this information to everybody on council. So it's not like it's been profitable. We have lost money in total.
That's not what I'm saying. In fact, what I said...
Can you explain this sheet then?
Yes. So the sheet that shows profit and losses from 2014 through the 2026 proposal has a positive number for all years except 2. It had a negative number, I believe, for last year and this year, or possibly this year and last year. I don't have it in front of me. But those negative numbers, and I think one year it was like 300,000, the next year it was like 125,000. That's because in that analysis, in those financials, are one-time project costs of in the neighborhood of about $800,000. So if those project costs were not there, and again, these project costs are being paid for by money in the bank, so to speak, you would see that we actually had a pretty decent profit in both of those years. Beyond that, if you look at the forecasts and we return to what our normal expense levels are, and our revenue will be reduced because, particularly with fiber, our internet pricing is less expensive for folks than what it is under the cable system. So while our revenues will decrease, our expenses will decrease by an even larger amount. So not only will we continue to make money, but in reality, with the transition of turning basically losses from cable subscribers into profitable subscribers for streaming TV, and with that reduction in the content costs, we would actually see us begin to build that surplus up again.
And again, we don't have a lot of time, but I appreciate that. But so you're saying these are wrong? Because they do show losses. They show losses at the top. And you got to understand, there's members of council here that get these sheets, and then they look at them, and they say, oh, we lost money. And then we come to a meeting, you say, oh, no, we didn't lose money. I do see the materials in here, but this isn't what we were presented, and this is where the confusion comes. So I'm just letting you know. Now, I also got another sheet, and this is cable operations only. Got this from the auditor's office. So the cable operations only, and I'm assuming it's in the total telecom, but the cable operations only shows a loss of $668,000 in 2025, which is what started all these conversations a couple months ago. Now, are you saying that number's right, wrong? I'm just trying to find out.
I'm not saying that's wrong. I'm saying that service line, because of content cost, that's one piece that's losing money, but CityLink is not. It's similar to saying, hey, McDonald's loses 10 cents on an apple pie, so they should be out of business because Burger King already makes hamburgers. It doesn't make sense. And by the way, I have no idea whether they lose money on apple pies or not, so I don't know that. But the point that I'm making is that you've got one particular service line that is losing money.
I know, but in total, so what we've been told, and again, I'm just trying to get to the bottom of this. I mean, I got to tell you, I'm a CPA. I look at this stuff all the time. This has been extremely confusing for me, and I do this for a living. All right, so if you give me a sheet that shows a loss, and I rely on that, and then I come to a meeting and tell me, oh, it's not a loss, it's expenses, that throws me another question, because that tells me that your material costs then should be over in the others, I'm assuming you're going to, if you fix this, you're going to take the material costs out of the expenses, and you're going to put them into the fixed costs. right? That's where you have to put them.
They are part of the capital cost.
But they're not right now.
They're
They're in
budgeted.
here.
Most of them are, but there are things that are used, for example, customer premises equipment, the routers, those type of things that are purchased out of our operations because those are normal operating.
But wait a minute, so they're not, I mean, I'm not trying to interrupt you, but you're going to confuse me again. So if these are capital costs, are they capital costs related to the telecom or capital costs related to the new fiber?
They're related to the transition to the fiber network.
Well, you just said that some of these aren't related to the fiber. You said some of them are costs.
Jim, the
Mr. Renacci,
Mr.
which
Renacci,
form?
I don't care. You call me Jim if you give me the answers. That's
The
all.
document that you're referring to, and I tried to make it stand out with all of this bright highlighting and putting it directly by the number where it says, CityLink consistently generates an annual operating surplus. The temporary losses shown here are not true losses. They reflect planned one-time project expenses for the fiber upgrade.
All right, let's assume that. Let's jump to another, because now I'm going to this sheet, which you gave us at the last meeting. This is your summary where you show beginning telecom balances, project costs, and ending balances. Now, I got a lot of writing on here, but in here, you're showing that coming out of the telecom balance was $6,280,980, and all I did was add up your numbers. This is your sheet where you show financial performance, smart planning, why the drawdown isn't a loss.
Yeah, and I think the way you need to look at that is what was our starting fund balance to what was the lowest point it would be at as the project.
I understand that, but there's $6,280,000 of project costs being drawn down. Is this number that's in here, which is operations, is it in this 6.280? Is it double accounted for, or is it here and not over here? Because these are two things you sent members of council.
Yeah, so there are items that are part of the capital project that are in these numbers. If they weren't in these numbers would be positive.
I understand that.
It's not trickier than that.
But are they in this 6.28 million? I mean, I'm just trying to get, are they already in here?
Yep, so the fund balance that you see there is the combination of two funds, our operating and our capital fund. So yes, they're in there.
You show the fund balance on this report, and then you show the operations, revenues, expenses, and project costs. So you're showing revenues, expenses, and project costs. This is just revenues and expenses. You're saying that in this sheet, there is some amount of money, $800,000, of project costs that shouldn't be in here, which is in the operations, which would be these columns. But then you have another column which says project costs. My question is the $800,000 in here or over here? Because on this sheet, you're saying it's over here, which means it's over here.
Well, maybe it'd be useful, and I'm sorry I can't bring it up, but if you look at the profit and loss history, and you go down toward the bottom section, you'll find a line item that says materials and supplies. And if
Mr. Testa, I get that. I mean, I understand exactly that. I'm trying to get to this sheet because this is really the crux of tonight. You gave us projections, you gave us cash flow, and this is the crux. Well, if this sheet's not right, then we got a whole nother problem. I do understand what you're saying. Materials are in here, $800,000. It would reduce the loss. I get that.
it would eliminate the loss and result in a
It would
surplus.
reduce it to zero. All right? Fine. But you have another sheet over here, and you have 6.28 of project costs. And my question is the 800,000 in here? Because is it, because then I'm going to lead me to another question, because if you only have 6.28 million and we're going to spend 9.5 and your cash balance is down to 685,000, where's the rest of the money coming from to do the rest of the project? So I want to go from income expense to project cost to how we move forward.
Okay.
And base everything off your numbers. And you have two sheets that conflict with each other, which is what I'm trying to say, which which I hope the public realizes, which has been my frustration for 2 months.
Yeah, I don't agree with that.
Well, you haven't answered my question. Is the 880,000 in the project cost number here? You can agree or disagree, but that's the simple answer.
Jim, it's in the profit and loss. We separately track project costs a different way, so we can look at it as it's part of these project costs, but specific to the revenues and expenses of CityLink as a whole. Those costs are in here. They're covered by the drawdown in savings.
I understand that, but you gave us 2 reports and they conflict. And I'm just asking for, and so that I can be more comfortable with this report. That's all. I mean, look, this is why we don't get anywhere, because this is what I do for a living and I can't get an answer. I mean, what is the...
I do this for a living,
let's forget
too.
it. Let's move on. I'm going to continue to go on this path that you started. So on this sheet, which you prepared and handed to us, remember, both of these prepared by you. I didn't prepare. You prepare this. You show that there's $6,280,980 spent in 23, 24, 25, and 26. That's what you're proposing. That's $6,280,000. But you're also saying on this sheet that there's $9.5 million in total expenditures. You're drawing down the fund to $685,000 after spending approximately 6.3. You got another 3.2 to spend. Where's that money coming from if the fund is already drawn down?
It's coming from the profitable operations from year to year. We're generating a profit. We use some of the fund balance because we're absorbing basically a $10 million project, and it's being paid for with our fund balance that we've saved up, plus the surplus or profits that we're generating as we continue operations.
But that's not what this sheet shows. I apologize, but it's just not what it shows. It shows that you got $685,000 left. You got 3.2 just to get to the 9.5. You're already at the end of 2026. You're drawn down to $685,000. I think this is what gets confusion. You got to spend 9.5. Where is the money coming? Now you're saying it's from profits, but you've got the profit and loss here. So the numbers don't reflect what you're saying. I mean, maybe you and I need to sit down, because I can tell you what I'm saying and what you're saying aren't agreeing, and I'm using your sheets.
Yeah, it makes sense for us to sit down because I have gone over this with the auditor. We've tied these things out, and maybe what you need to see is the specific details, the calculations that roll into these to give you a greater level of comfort. This isn't something where I sat down with a scratch pad. This is something where we've been planning this. It was being planned before I ever got here, and I've been here 5 years. That's all we do is plan and look at the finances.
Mr. Testa, again, I'm trying to keep this concise. I'm not trying to interrupt you. It sounds like I'm just worried about the numbers. I mean, you're talking about planning. You're talking about. I'm just talking about the numbers, and the numbers don't match what you're saying. That's all I'm saying.
And I disagree with that, Mr. Renacci. I would also say that
and you should be able. And you know what? You should be able to answer. You should be able to answer the questions.
I think I could sit down and in 15 minutes with anybody that's completed the 5th grade or above, they would understand this project.
You know what?
Oh, Dave, don't give me that.
Listen.
That's uncalled for.
I think the best thing
You've
is...
done that with the airport commission. You did it again. It's uncalled for.
I think the best thing is
No.
Mr. Renacci and Mr. Testa to sit down, because it's kind of
I would
hard
agree that comment's out.
when you don't
Because I
have...
tell you, if this is a 5th grade education, we got real problems.
Yeah. Mayor, this is my meeting. Let me address that.
I just
No.
would like to finish my
Thank you,
comment.
but, all right. Any other questions, or would you like to continue on, Councilmember Renacci?
Well, and I gave you these questions before. I'm sticking with your. This is yours, not mine. You project revenues in 2026 of $7,481,700 in the combined fund balance, and I asked you how you got that number, and you sent some sheets but none of them tie into the $7,481,000. So and that was a specific question, I gave it to you 2 weeks ago. How do I tie into the $7,481,000?
Well, you sent me that this afternoon, and if I could bring it up on the screen, I would lead you through that. What I sent you were basically the variables and what that looks like. You have one sheet out of a massive spreadsheet, but that sheet that you have shows all of the calculations that go into feeding a year's worth of revenue.
Does it total anywhere? I see that sheet, it's right here.
Yes, it does.
Is there $7,481,000 on the sheet somewhere that I missed?
Well, you wouldn't see it on there because that is 1 year of one service.
But it's a projection. I mean, I mean, again, maybe I'm only 4th grade in your opinion, but when you send a sheet like this should tie out to the question of $7,481,000. These citizens wonder why I have questions. How difficult it is to tie this out? $7,481,000, tell me how you got the number. By the way, in 2027, $7,595,000. Tell me how you got the number. It's that simple. Don't give me a whole bunch of revenues and say, there's your answer. Because I got to tell you, this doesn't tie out to those numbers. So again, in any 5th grader should be able to figure this
We
out.
would be looking at that right now if I could bring it up.
That's fine.
You want to show up, if we have a meeting, I will go over with you in great detail.
Put it up there, if that's what you want to do.
Well, that's what I'm saying, is I've not been able to connect. That's,
Well, again, I'm sure other council members have a lot of questions, but I tell you, I'm leaving here again with unanswered questions. Of questions that I've asked you for over a week, and we're still coming down to, I mean, you just admitted. I mean, here's the sheet. Where's the 7,485? Just show me on the sheet. I'll walk over there. You want to see the sheet? Show me where the $7,481,000 is on this sheet, and I'll be done. I won't ask any more questions. This is your revenue summary. Where's the $7,481,000?
this number, the $7,481,700, is comprised of a lot of sheets like this. That's what I've been working on. That's what we could sit down and go over
How'd you get
in the computer.
$7,481,000? Where'd you, I mean,
It's basically the summation of the internet service line, cable and streaming, phone services, and then some ancillary revenues like rent, joint venture,
so
stuff like that.
if you calculated that somewhere, you should have it. You should have it.
Correct. And what I'm saying is we'd be looking at it on the screen right now if I could connect to that.
Well, if you have it, can you make a copy of it and give it to me? If you have it on that computer,
I can give it to you, yes.
yeah, that'd be great. I don't know if anybody else has any.
Any other questions from council?
Yes. With the cable maybe having a loss or not, we have to determine that. How can I decide as a council person my financial or fiduciary responsibility if I don't know? And then further, I've heard some assumptions or statements saying that if we were to sell or move people off cable, they would leave us. They may not sign up for internet. And that's a statement of fact or assumption that I have not seen any facts. And I challenged you on that earlier, another meeting. I want to know, what is the industry standard and so forth if this happens or if people leave? Because it doesn't mean they're going to go to streaming too. They could buy streaming from YouTube TV or wherever, Sling or whatever. And so I want to know what is our chances of loss? What is the industrial standard? Okay, so I can have a better understanding of what I should do with these losses or possible losses.
Yeah, so you mentioned about determining the losses in the document that you were sent yesterday, where it says in bold font, cable TV losses, 2025 estimate, $668,620, 2026 forecast, $262,092. I don't know a simpler way to say that.
That isn't what I asked. I asked if we remove cable, okay, take that off the board.
Yeah.
You stated to us that people would not, that we would lose internet customers?
I believe we would.
Believe, you made that as a statement of fact, and that determines how much revenue we're going to be coming in. And I would like to know the industrial standards for this, so I have an idea of, I can make a good decision.
Here's how I would describe it, okay? If somebody were to become a cable subscriber of another company, let's use Spectrum as an example. Spectrum markets like crazy. They're continually sending out flyers, they're continually offering special deals, this and that. And they're also actively moving their cable subscriber base to streaming. If they move a cable subscriber that we've lost to streaming product, they're going to require, as part of that streaming TV product, that the customer also have their internet product, because their fiber internet is basically what's going to support that. So, in my opinion, and I don't have any facts, it's my belief that if we lost that cable subscriber and they converted to a streaming customer, as the other providers are doing, and those other providers require them to have their internet service, in my opinion, it would be unlikely they would maintain two separate internet services.
I would like some facts, industrial standard facts about what the losses were, instead of an opinion, okay? That's what I'm looking for, so I can make a good decision. That's what I'm looking for.
And I've asked that same question, Mike, several times. You use the word anticipated, possible, okay? I want to see where those numbers are coming from. How do you anticipate these numbers? How do you, possible numbers?
Well,
we can put anything on paper and, I mean, justify.
I hear what you're saying, Ralph, but I don't have a crystal ball.
None of us have a crystal ball. That's why we're asking these questions.
So that's why I say anticipate. That's why I say expectation. That's why I say forecast or projection. They're the best estimates based on the analysis that I've done.
But you're asking us to deal with a $10 million investment on possibilities, which really concerns me.
Now, wait a minute.
Because what originally paid for our first cable service 30 years ago?
Exactly what I was going to ask. Thank you, Mr. Coughlin.
Yeah, I believe,
Mr. Lyron, you were the service director at the time. May I ask you, what originally paid for our cable services 30 years ago?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear your question.
Where did the funds come from that initiated the first cable television in Wadsworth? Was it tax dollars? Where did the money come from to start this program up?
30 years ago.
Actually, there was some, if I recall correctly, and of course, we're talking about many years ago.
30 years.
Okay, I suggest, can I ask you a question about something that was
I know.
30 years ago?
No.
I hesitate to give you a direct answer.
Okay, that's fine.
I'm doing some research on it.
Okay, that's fine.
And I can guess, but that's not what we're about today. We're not
Okay.
there.
Okay, thank you.
That's exactly
So if I
what I want.
might say just a couple things, I was thinking about it as I've been hearing everybody, going back and forth. One thing that really has not been brought up is that 2 years ago, this council and individuals here in this room, we had some thorough discussions as far as CityLink and our future of CityLink, recognizing the importance of improving our system and how we could do that, and if we could do it financially and that sort of thing. And a decision was made unanimously that we wanted to improve and we wanted to invest in our system. We wanted to continue to provide an excellent service to our citizens, because we knew, number one, is that we provide that service unmatched. And then the other reason why is because we provide a valuable service just by being here. And as was mentioned, is that we keep our costs low. Whether individuals end up using our service or not, it helps overall everybody's cost. And that's why 30 years ago, one of the reasons why it was done is one was cost and the other was to provide that excellent service, because those are areas that were lacking at that time. And so I guess my point is that 2 years ago, a decision was made to do this. And legislation was passed, it was unanimous, and there has been other pieces throughout the time because there's been additional legislation needed to be able to do that. And it has been voted on and decided upon time and time again. And so that's one thing is that this council has made that decision. And I recognize that there are questions and those questions need to be answered, but I just don't think that I think it's important that we make sure that we have that. The other thing that I want to mention is that the cost is very important, and I think it's very important that council members, whoever has questions, they work and take time on an individual basis to work with Mr. Testa to make sure you understand what he's saying. And if you have questions, you can answer and you can look at everything right then and there. I think that's very important. So cost is a very important aspect. But there are other important aspects as well, and that is service. If there is one thing that I have heard from this community that they are very grateful for, that is the service that this CityLink provides. It is excellent. And I've heard from each of you saying how excellent this service is. And that has a value. It's not financial, but it has a value. Well, actually, I take that back. It does have a financial value because those individuals that work for home, those businesses that utilize ours, if they are down, that's an issue. That's a financial issue to them. And so that is a very important aspect of this. It's a very important economic development tool. It is. It's a very important economic development tool. I was talking with our economic development director, and he was mentioning we have a new business at the north end, and they use a lot of our services, and that's a very important aspect for them. The other thing is we as a city utilize our own service in multiple ways. And our service department would do a much better job at answering and talking about it than I can. But we utilize it within our water system, our wastewater system, our electric division, and just functioning here at City Hall, our safety services. So we depend upon that. And if it goes down or if something were to happen, we are right there. So I think that has a great value. So I just want to make sure that certainly the financial part is important. We had made that decision 2 years ago. I recognize that there's some questions now, and those questions need to be answered, and I don't want to minimize that, but I also don't want to minimize the important other aspects that this service brings to our community, because it is important. It's a valued service to our community. It's an economic development tool for us, and it's valued for those individuals that as I said, work from home or have their businesses here in town, because without this service, we are, what did we all do the other night? It was like the world came down, because we didn't have internet and electric for a little bit.
Yes, sir.
Madam Mayor, you might find this odd, but I do agree with you on a lot of those things. The service is tremendous. It is great. But I think the crux of this is the cable part of it, not the fiber, not the internet, not the telecom. The cable has lost money. I think if we did a good job of educating our residents and we gave them a date and said, January 1, you need to be on streaming, we're good. A couple of things, Mr. Testa, that I heard you refer to tonight. We. I want to know who's we. Is that administration? Because I don't remember some of these conversations on the we's in your introduction, that we felt this, we felt that, we felt this way. So I just kind of like to know who the we are. Follow up to that. Go ahead, answer that question here's my other one for you. In the projections you've given us, you gave us 7% increases all along. You have those numbers, you know what that, you didn't just pull that out of the sky. I'm sure that is a projection that you look at the industry on. And I think what we're saying is if we did away with cable, the industry knows that there's a percentage of people you're going to lose. So if you can come up with a factual percentage for increase, we should kind of have a factual guess of what the decrease is. And I'm not saying that you're not intelligent, I'm not going to say what your education is, but if you have a 7% comment that this is what we project for growth, then we should also have a percentage of what we could expect that is an industry standard. If we do away with the cable, how many customers should we lose, or what percentage should we lose? Those are my questions.
Yeah, so thank you, Dan. First of all, when I say we, I'm talking about me, the telecom department, the folks that were working on the project.
Okay.
Secondarily, I looked high and low to see if I could find a statistic, including talking to our external project managers and tasking them with, is there some kind of a metric that I can point to that says, if this happens, you lose X percentage of these people? They couldn't come up with anything. I've looked extensively and could not come up with that. With regard to the 7% annual increase, that was a target based on an educated guess by Kevin, our telecom manager. I can tell you that in our last couple developments, we've substantially exceeded that, meaning we're doing larger increases than we had projected. But that's what was the basis of that.
Thank you. I do think, though, if we did a better job of marketing, that we as a city are going to back down the cable. We're going to get everybody to stream. The customers would be much happier. The senior center has already promised me they will do educational programs for all the seniors. And then we could redirect some of the funds that we are getting surpluses that we see to WCTV, and I think we keep everybody happy that way. But I think we have to look at that instead of just not, you know, I'm not smart. I would tell everybody, I got kicked out of college twice, but I run a business, okay? I can read numbers. I have a heck of a time making heads or tails out of any of this. It has been extremely frustrating. I've spent hours trying to understand it. I've spent hours on the phone with other councilmen trying to understand it. I haven't come to your office to ask you to do that because I know you're trying to get us other answers, of which I'm disappointed we have not been able to get it drilled down to a fifth grade education to understand.
Got something else?
Yeah,
Yes, thank you. Go ahead. Councilmember Yurcheck.
yeah. I mean, obviously, I agree. The numbers have to tie together. So we can sit here and throw all these ifs, whats, whatever out, but we need to determine how we're going to sit down and make the numbers tie together so that whatever level anyone on council's at understands the numbers, because obviously there's a failure to communicate, because I believe that Mr. Testa, from his perspective, is saying, I'm giving you everything that you're asking for, so there's got to be some sort of disconnect in that. I mean, and I know it's like we're holding up this sheet and that sheet, so, you know, do we schedule a work session?
Councilmember Yurcheck, that's why I scheduled this meeting.
Well, I understand that, but obviously we, you know, from what Mr. Testa said, we don't have it before. So do we all sit down with Mr. Testa individually, and then we come back together with another work session so we've all had it? What's the direction forward? I mean, that's where we need to get to.
Go ahead, Mr. Reed.
The only thing I would add is, I mean, some of these questions were already asked. I mean, the 7,481,000, I mean, the reason I'm asking the 7,481,000 on your projection, the reason I'm asking for it is because my opinion is it takes 11,000, I did try and back into that number. It takes 11,336 subscribers to make that number work. And we only have 6,000 subscribers today. So when I ask the question, it should be pretty simple, but I agree. This should be pretty easy. You're saying you have it. This is what this was about. They were simple questions. What is the 7.4? Where does that come from? Where does the 7.1 come from? How do we get our numbers? What are the costs? But I do want to throw one other, I mean, and by the way, Mayor, I agree. The service that we get provided is excellent. That doesn't mean we shouldn't know what the costs are. That's the key. And Mr. Testa, no, who sent this to me? Yeah, Mr. Testa sent this to me. This is a list of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Well, they sent it to all of us. because I asked for the plan. I said, just give me the plan, because I was told in 2023, you sat down with city council, you gave them a plan, somebody gave them a plan, and then we're working the plan. So I asked for the plan. Today you told me there is no plan. Now, I've been told by others there is a plan. I'd like to see the plan, that's all. And then in the plan, it would have said, here's how much we expect in losses in cable, here's how much we're going to spend. I've asked other council members, what did they anticipate spending? And they said $4 to $5 million. Yet, I agree, you're telling me here that there's 7.5 million, and I think the mayor was referring to this, of ordinances that council passed to get to the 7.5. But I will bet you that most members didn't realize that this was all part of the plan, because we get back to what we started, I think, a couple of months back when I said, if we're going to do a project like the fire station, or if we're going to do a project like the park, it'd be nice for city council to know this is going to cost, well, in the park perspective, 5.2 million, and then as you get to it, everybody knows you're getting there. I don't believe city council knew, unless, I mean, at least the ones I
I'm going to
asked.
say that, because just for the audiences, Rick, there's been a tremendous amount of emailing going back and forth, and because you're having questions.
Right.
And that's why I think it's best to just kind of sit down and to go over when you have a question, and because it starts to get a little bit confusing because there are so many emails. But I will tell you, the reason why I bring that up is that I've seen, like even as early as today, but I saw it previously. So today was one that had the presentation, I believe that was given 23. That, because you had asked the question, where does it say that 9.8? And so in that presentation, it shows that $9.8 million thing. But I had seen it in a previous email, and maybe even another, but at least twice. But as I said, there's so much going back and forth. I think it's hard to make sure that everybody is reading it and having it and understanding it, and even opening up the attachment. There's just so much. And so I think it would be very valuable to have, you and whoever else has specific financial questions, because it seems like the questions are more at the financial end, is to have you sit down with Mr. Testo on a one-on-one. I think that would really be the best situation.
That's fine. And by the way, the projections are coming from this presentation that was handed all of us, or the questions, but I would 100% agree with you. But again, and I'm not going to ask, I do believe my biggest concern is I have to approve a budget that includes some of these expenditures. So even though things were passed, might have been approved in the past, I'm asking questions which I think are intriguing some other members of council to say, yeah, can we have that answer? And I think that there's nothing wrong with that. We should get these answers. So
there's I just think it's easier when you have a spreadsheet to be able to ask and point and
If it makes sense.
It's just, and ask that moment versus via email, it just gets a little bit difficult.
Thank
We
you.
can do
We
that,
call the
but I
meeting. Well, here we go. Presentation's up now.
So thank you to Kathy for getting me connected here. But so when you're asking, Jim, where's the 7.4 million coming? Let me explain what you're looking at, because it's the summation of what you're looking at. So you start with what our existing customer base is. We determine how many installations we're likely able to do in a month. We determine the rate that folks are paying today, and we look at what the new rate will be on their transition, as well as what the new content cost will be in their transition. Now, this is more than just cable TV. This is internet, phone, TV altogether, including cable and streaming. What these spreadsheets are showing, of which I included one snapshot in the information that was sent to you, but you can see that there's a significant number of details here that are designed to take in these assumptions and variables, which I also included in what was sent to you, and play that out as to what, on a monthly basis, customer counts and dollar amounts would look like. It's the summation of those dollar amounts with the addition of the non-charges, like, again, like rent, joint venture and stuff, is where we're getting the 7.4 or the 7.5 or those numbers. It's also where we're getting the guesstimates for how much content cost savings are going to be. I can tell you those assumptions are based on us having 25% increase in our customer base by the end of the project. So if you were to do the financial math, that works out to about 7.7% a year. So we take where we're at with our existing customers, we assume a percentage will be converted each month as the project continues. We add in the piece for what we think our new customers are going to be. They're added in at the new lower price. And it's that interplay between customers who are still paying the old price and the customers that are paying the new price. Basically, the price of each of those times the respective number of customers. That's giving you the monthly total. Each of those monthly totals are summed up for a year, and then they're added, this first one here being internet, it's added to what the TV piece is, it's added to what the phone piece is, and it's added to what the other just revenues like the rent, the joint venture, those kind of things. That is where the revenue is coming from.
So where's the $7,481,000 up on that sheet?
Let me. So this is the number you're talking about.
No, that's the projection you gave us. You gave us that. My question is, what makes up the $7,481,700? How do you get to that number?
Yeah, so it's basically looking at what the internet is, what the cable streaming is, what the phone is, what the additional revenues are, and again, these sheets that you're.
I know where that's at. Where's the detail? How many customers? What's the rate?
Well, okay, so here's the detail. And this one's the business one. Let me find the residential one. These are the rates we're talking about, and where those rates are coming from is what's our current customer breakdown times the package that they're in times the price of that package. How much is that bringing in each month? And then as we transition from cable, and some folks are already on fiber, to just fiber, how does this same count likely pan out? Now there's some art to this because in this case, I'll show you how I made those assumptions, is that I looked at the current packages and the new pricing, and I said, okay, for somebody that is in the lowest package now, what package are they likely to be in? And just as an example, you'll see that for this first one, folks that are in the lowest package, the majority of them, I assume, would stay in the lowest package. For the other tiers here, I assumed that some of them would stay in the closest price package. Some of them would actually probably drop down to a less expensive package, and some may choose to go up to a more expensive package.
Is there a formula that you're using? I mean,
yes.
Look, I know Excel spreadsheets. If you go down to that 7.481 number and you highlight it, is it going to give me a formula that shows me how you got that number?
Well, it's going to be the combination of customers for internet.
I get that, but I want to track it. I'm trying to.
Yeah, so we would need to sit down and go through that because that 7.4 number is made up of revenues from internet, revenues from the television, revenues from VoIP. And there are separate analyses that are added together to come up with that number.
The 7.41 is going to equal this cell plus this cell, but then you got to go back to that cell and trace it back to this sheet where you did all your stuff. So I'm sure you could back into it, but it's going to take.
You could.
Yeah.
It would not be that hard to back into. I mean, there's a lot we're looking at, and I know you guys haven't seen this, and I work with this, all the time. But it's designed to be very logical and step by step, month by month, service line by service line, to spell out, here's what those numbers are based on.
Do you have another spreadsheet on the expenses? Because Kim, I think Ralph asked that, 7179, where'd they come from?
Yeah, so I don't have a detailed spreadsheet like this. Let me find it here.
So how many subscribers is it taking for you to get to 7 million? Because I know what I calculated. How many subscribers does it take you to get to $7,481,700 in 2026?
That's largely based on the number of subscribers that we have now, plus...
No, I just want, you've got to have a calculation somewhere up there. Pull it up on the spreadsheet and tell me what are you using as your basis to get to 7,481,000? I want to know.
So I'm using 5,933 residential internet subscribers, 2,475 cable streaming subscribers because they're split, 251 phone subscribers, and then separately we have 197 business subscribers and 67 that are on kind of a special kind of Ethernet. So those are the customers that the forecast is built upon.
For 2026, 5,000 cable. How many streaming?
It's for the internet, or for the, you're talking about for the TV product? I think.
I'm just trying to get the numbers for 2026. How many?
Yeah.
How many cable and how many?
I think the breakdown that we had at the end of last month was out of the 6,000 or so, or the 59, like 1,345 were on fiber. I think on the television side, I think of the 2,475, we had somewhere in the neighborhood of about 600 that were already on the streaming side.
I'm not sure if I don't know. You have $7,481,000 in revenues in 2026, not today. So what are you projecting to be the total number to get to that number, to get to the 7,041,000? You said it's up on that sheet somewhere. What is the total number of subscribers in 2026 to match your projection that you sent us?
Yeah, so here's where we are. When we started this, the 5,933, these are the projected customer counts, in this case for residential internet, based on our starting number and our expected growth rate. So it's listing out, as an example, in February, this would be our projection, 6,133.
So you should be able to take 6,000 starting in January, 6,100 in February, add up 12 months, divide by 12, that'll be your subscribers.
Yeah.
So you're averaging about 6,100 subscribers. And then my next question would be, if that's the case, and you had 6,100 subscribers, what's the rate you're going to use to get to 7,481,000? I mean, let's do.
So, let me find it. For the TV side of things, it's for the cable, it's about $99.26 a month. Nope, that's the content cost. Let me go for the TV. It would be about $90 a month. But again, I want everyone to understand that
So I just did a quick calculation. If you average 6,200 in 2026, you would need $100 a month to get to 7,481,000. That's how simple it is. Now the question is in 2026, are we going to be charging $100 a month for all of our services on average for 6,200 subscribers.
I just ran it on the calculator, $7.5 million divided by 6,100 subscribers, it's going to take $1,229.50 a month to hit that number.
A year.
A year.
A year.
Yeah.
$100 a month.
Yeah.
Well, that's what it does. It comes to, it comes to about $100 a month. Are we going to be charging our subscribers $100 a month? That's the average now too, because you've got different types of
Business
subscribers.
and residential.
Yeah, but this isn't, what you're talking about is here, this $89 is specifically, this isn't the price that they're paying, per month. This is what the folks that have cable are paying, but folks that have cable and internet, which is about roughly 2,500 of them, are paying for 2 services. Folks that have phone are paying for 3. So it's the combination
Right.
of customers.
Can I just interject real quick? I do think it's fairly, from what Jim's asking, I do think it's, if we have 6,100 subscribers, we know that number. We know what, 6,200. We know what the dollar amount is that is in question. So why can't we just put that number, just put those categories that you just said? I am using 302 people that are doing these 2 services, and it should be a fairly small chart that would at least put it in the right direction. Correct?
That's right.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just trying to get to what.
Because I believe 100 is too high, but I may be wrong. I believe $100 for 6,200 subscribers is higher than you're going to be able to charge, but maybe I'm wrong.
But
I know
some have
somebody
more than
today
one service,
that has
though.
internet, streaming services and is paying $80 a month. All right, so that's the ballpark that I'm hearing. They have cable and they have streaming, and they're paying $80 a month.
Yeah, I think, so the internet piece of that, the average is about $50. The TV piece of it, if you were looking at the mix between cable and streaming customers that we have right now, comes out to about an average of $87 a month. So, John, to your point, it is the sum of these. It's just, I've got it listed here on big spreadsheets.
Yeah, I mean, I think we just need it summarized. I mean, I think saying, hey, we've got exactly what you just said. We've got 300 customers that are just at the cable rate, which is X, equates to this dollar amount. This many customers that are on these 2 services, your business customers, and it's all of those categories that are getting to that.
And how do you project that 7% customer increase? I mean, that's been one of my questions for 2 months.
Yeah, so.
What's our customer increase been the last 2 years?
Well, I want to say since the project, it had been about.
Because I see cable numbers going this way, and I don't see internet numbers going 7%.
So it had been, since the project, about 5%. But remember,
Okay.
we've just gotten into the installations in the last, really heavy in the last, year or so. I think the 2 developments that we most recently finished, and I probably have it here, they were significantly higher than those projections. Let's see here.
Do we know what the average residential customer is spending a month? Those that are on internet and fiber? That might be helpful to know. And also, as a follow-up to my one question to you, real quickly through ChatGPT, if a city transitions from traditional cable to fiber and streaming, the customer loss rate could fall dramatically from around 60 to 90% down to 20 to 40%. In many cases, that means the city could retain 60 to 80% of its current customers rather than losing them all.
When I did that research, I did it more specific. If it was heavily bundled, the average loss was 10 to 25%. If it was sold separately, like internet is sold separately, the losses on average were 5 to 10%. And the people that replaced cable or went to another service was less than 5%. But that, again, we're using ChatGPT, and it does hallucinate sometimes, so I'm unsure of those numbers, but that's the best I was able to come up with quickly.
in terms of the potential customers that, David, you're saying that we would lose as internet subscribers if we lost.
This is internet
TV?
subscribers you lose if you remove cable from your menu.
But if you have fiber, you could retain and grow.
I would tell you that I think that
And
there's
if you have streaming.
Well, I meant streaming.
Yeah.
That's what I meant.
Streaming.
But I mean, if you have that as
Yeah, but if you switch them to streaming, you're going to retain and maybe grow.
I would agree with that. And you know, remember, when we're looking at decreases in cable subscribers, I don't believe that that decrease is saying these are people that no longer watch TV. I think a lot of that is people that are choosing a different way to watch TV.
That was less than 5%. If we did it, if they would move to another service, it was less than 5% when what I did up here real quick. And I don't have the industrial standards. I don't know where they're getting their information for sure, but that was what I was told. I mean,
You're talking about that's what we would lose on the.
if you removed from your telecommunications services, all your menu, you removed cable, how much would you lose? They would go to another subscriber. And it was less than 5%, the national average, according to, like I said, a quick calculation.
Yeah.
That's why we had streaming all up and running.
No, it didn't even say that. It didn't even say that. It said it could be anything. They could
Right,
just move.
but if you remove cable and you have Spectrum and everyone else that's removing cable as well, those people are going to go, they're going to move, but then they're going to be forced to go with their streaming service. So
If they bundled it.
or you switch. If we
Yeah.
drop cable and we didn't have
Yeah.
fiber, they're going somewhere else and they can use their streaming service and/or their own.
And that's why I asked, what was the industrial? Because we have to take that into consideration.
And currently, you don't have to have fiber to stream in Wadsworth.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can stream over
You can stream over the over cable, the
Coaxial.
coaxial lines right now. I do it myself.
So do I.
So
I do too.
I don't think we're going to lose what we think we would lose if we.
So you're saying you could eliminate the cable, eliminate the losses, and people will stream off the current cable until we have the fiber installed?
Correct.
With proper education
and our level of service, you know, the one thing you hear about all the other companies is I had an outage and it was 24 hours. You have an outage in Wadsworth, it might be 30 minutes, there's somebody at your door knocking to get you back up and running. So that's why I said earlier, maybe we set a date and say, the cable ends, you know, we do a good job of marketing this, of explaining this to the residents, to having, you know, meetings where we can help people learn. The senior center's a great asset, and I know that's one of the big concerns we have is the seniors resist change, but we can educate them there. And I think we could really shut the cable side down, because that's where the big crux started, is the cable itself. The cable television is losing money. It doesn't mean you can't watch TV, folks. It means you stream it instead of it coming the other way, which is costing all of us money, and your rates will most likely come down, and some of them might have a higher level of television at the same price.
That's exactly right.
That's the way this is all set up to be. That's why we agreed to Spring Fiber in 2023, because we were going to do away with the cable. Then our revenues go up, and we take the revenues that we're making from that, and we're still supplementing WCTV. It's not that hard if we just get the right numbers.
Do we have the, we don't have the
2023, we were not
cable,
told about the cable loss at that time. I just found out about the cable loss 6 months ago when we started to discuss the increases.
Yeah, 2 months ago.
Now, if everyone switches over right now on the coax, we do not have, everyone couldn't switch right now today because of we don't have, there's not enough broadband, correct? Or
Yeah, but one of the things that, you know, the project has developed momentum, and to put this in perspective, our external project manager is estimating that by the end of this calendar year, December 31st, we'll have the fiber lines, so that's basically either the aerial fiber that's wrapped around existing lines or the fiber that's underground in conduits, will have been built out to approximately 5,000 of our 10,000 homes. Now, remember, we're building out the network to cover everybody, including those folks that aren't customers now. But we're about halfway there by the end of this year, and frankly, in the materials I've given you, I've been much more conservative about that number because I've not wanted to overpromise. But you know, based on the most recent project meeting we had, they felt pretty good about that. My point being that I anticipate installations will increase. What was included in the documentation that I provided you was what a payback would look like if we added an installer. In other words, if we paid to add somebody that was going to just do installations or on that side of it, would we be able to reduce our content costs to the point that having them on board would save us more money over the course of the year? And it looks like it would based on the analysis that I presented to you. Now, the beauty of that is, you know, we've got some folks in CityLink that are looking to retire within the next couple of years. So not only could these folks come in and pay for themselves through the savings, basically accelerating our content savings, but they would then be there to fill positions when people retire without us having a long-term gain in our employee numbers. I also say, you talk about the marketing, please remember that I included a marketing plan in the business plan that was presented to you. And one last point, part of the reason, and this was on me, that we haven't marketed like crazy is because I didn't want to market to a city that it hadn't been built out to, and then all of a sudden everybody's saying, we want the service, and now you guys are holding us up. It's planned to go so our guys can do the installations, keep up with demand without just getting inundated with a bunch of people that say they want the service now, then become frustrated because it might not be in their area on the internet side for another 18 months.
Okay, thank you for that. Do we have other financial questions here?
Well, yeah, because
Yes.
I don't want to lose, I think there's actually two things here that I'm hoping we're going to get to, and it doesn't sound like we're going to get to tonight. What started this conversation was we had losses in cable. I sat over there in a public service meeting and said, what can we do to stop these losses? That was the starting point. And then, but there's also another thing that I think is important. I think this entire council needs to know what the total cost of the build out is fiber and what the return is. I think that, and that's what you tried to do here in this presentation. So I think there's two things, because we can get rid of the losses in cable by just eliminating cable. But I think everybody in council is going to be asked to approve more spending in the fiber. They just need to know what it's going to cost, what's the total outlay, how much more they have approved, is there going to be a loan necessary? Now, I heard you say no, but is there going to be a loan necessary to get to the 9.5? And then what is the plan to get the 9.5 back? I think if we get those answers, City Council can move on, but I'm not sure we got them tonight. That's my opinion. If we got to do one-on-one meetings, I don't know, but...
With the cable, the rates just went up, and I believe on November the 1st, correct? They went into effect?
Well, October, yeah.
Or close to that because of the way...
We haven't gotten the money in yet because the bill...
Right, and so what they went up was supposed to eliminate most of the 30 to 35 that we were...
So looking at where we were the last couple months, it averaged out to about a $36,000 loss. The estimate for the rate increase that just took place with cable is that we generate about an additional $30,000 in income. So in other words, we'd be down to maybe losing about $5,000 a month. And again, you know, when we were presenting the legislation, as I said, there's a reason that we didn't raise, you know, one of the packages higher, and it's because we felt that the risk of potentially turning those customers away before they could become profitable customers wasn't worth the little bit of additional revenue that we would likely get from them. So again, it's not as random as you may be thinking. There's a lot of analysis and strategy that went into these things. But if you looked at the forecast and the proposal that I had sent, and I think I pointed this out in the materials yesterday, that if you look at 2026, our cable and TV revenues basically TV revenues, because remember, we've got the mix of cable and streaming, is projected to exceed content costs for the first time. So that's just an indication of that we are heading in the right direction. Increasing the cable rates not only offsets much of the loss, it also incentivizes people to switch over to a product that is profitable for us. But it's also really part of the plan of leading us towards the long-term savings. So it's working the way it's intended to work, is I guess how I would say that.
All right, we just got a few minutes. Let's wrap this up. Any final questions? That's not a repeat. Got a couple minutes. Is there anybody in the audience other than communication workers who would like to come forward and say anything? Yeah, you, sir. Yes, an address for the record.
Rex R. Slee at 638 Hillcrest, right behind the high school. So, just a quick history. I know we get maybe a couple minutes to go through.
Yeah, go ahead. We got a couple minutes.
35 years as a healthcare accountant, have since retired. So, been attending some of the council meetings, trying to learn what's going on. So, I have been audited by Medicare, the IRS, you name it. I've had them sit in my office and say, Rex, give me your numbers. I've had men like Mr. Renacci tell me, if you can get to that number, I don't know what's going to happen. Go grab your box, okay? Because you're leaving today. So I brought 2 binders with me. They used to call me Mr. Binder, to please explain your numbers. So I think that's all we're trying to do. If I have my notes. My wife helped me to narrow them down from 3 pages to 1 page. To be concise, I have to go back. The ordinance number 25-104 was brought to the July 15th meeting. So we're talking about July. I know dates get confusing. Mr. Testa said the item related to a cable television rate increase proposal. On the cable television services, the cost of content rose every year. Mr. Testa noted cable rates have not been increased since 2018. And money was lost each month per prescriber on packages. So this is July 15th. So down in the narrative, and you can find this on the web page, Mr. Renacci noted Mr. Testa mentioned competitors and asked for a comparison of pricing. That's all he asked. Mr. Testa did not have that data in front of him of competitor rates. But the rates that they looked at were designed to be on par with competitor rates. He apologized for not having the information, but offered to provide it to council. Mr. Renacci said it would be great if he could provide that. Okay, that was the first reading. We are now up to, I think, the 6th reading. So I printed out first reading, second reading, third reading, fourth reading, fifth reading, which is quite long, fifth reading, and then I think tonight is the 6th reading, maybe?
No, the cable rates passed.
We already passed the cable rate increase.
So, you know, we've talked about a couple months. I'm just reading back some of the things that were said at the July meeting, just trying to come back to the numbers. And so, yes, I've gone through the numbers, and I've talked to Kathy Fix about finances, and so I went out to OpenGov, where our finances are posted. And you talk about something that's difficult. I've stared at it for hours, and for evenings till my wife says, "What are you doing, Rex? You're going to make yourself crazy digging into these numbers." But I can't figure them out. And if I can't figure them out, I can't let it go. because that was my life for 40 years. Healthcare. Rex, we have to make it affordable for our patients to have a baby, to have surgery. Rex, that was my mission every day when I worked in Medina. Please make it affordable. Every day I woke up. So my boss said, we're not going to raise rates this year. We're not going to raise rates. Please tell me we're not going to raise rates. And this meeting said we're going to raise rates. And he asked why. And what? So I've been around the block since '93 as a resident, going from all the different plans, trying to keep it affordable and have to where I can have service, because I was working from home. And yes, my neighbors work from home, and we count on CityLink to be up and running. It's always up and running. So yes, I love CityLink. Who would want it to go away? And we know the history of CityLink, how it was helped paid for through government, subsidies, or however it came about back in the day.
Excuse me, Mr.
Right?
Slee, I'll give you about one more minute to summarize.
Okay.
We're running out of time.
So I tried to find a resolution 2 years ago where it was presented to council for the 9.5 million. I can't find it anywhere. And it says on our webpage right now, after Mr. Renacci asked for detail, it was posted on our webpage. So you can go to Wadsworth's homepage and it lays out this plan. It wasn't there before Mr. Renacci asked. And so when you go through the numbers, 2021, I found that CityLink had a gain of telecom, 1.2 million, 22, 1 million, 23, 1 million, 24, a loss of 425,000. A year-to-date loss through September of 66,000. So, and I've sat here at other meetings where people are concerned about, we currently have $39 million in debt. We have $4 million right now each year to pay off that debt. $1 million in interest on that debt each year. And in the budget for 2025, they wanted to add $22 million more onto that to make it $57 million in debt at the end of 2025. Then I sat here at a meeting about the electrical outage where it was proposed, what if we fix and have a second electrical line going to the town so this doesn't happen again? What's the cost? I'm sitting here, 35 to 40 million. Does anybody know that the second line, prove me wrong, I was sitting here, 35 to 40 million to put in a second line so we don't have that happen again. Where are you going to get $40 million? The park project is 20 to 30 million. The infrastructure downtown is 20 to 30 million. I could keep going on and on. If I was in healthcare and presented this to my boss, Rex, where are we going to get the money? We're going to have to borrow money. And at what interest rate? And then we're going to tell the taxpayers who are now getting inundated with new residential tax rates for real estate, and we're going to say, no, now you're going to owe more and more and more.
Thank you, Mr. Slee. I
Okay.
hate to cut you off, but you do
Thank
have
you.
an opportunity in our regular council meeting if you would like to speak again.
Thank you.
Thank you. And we'll wrap that up. May I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
We're adjourned.
Only questions, where do we go?
You are watching WCTV, Wadsworth Community Television.